So it was a big weekend for the NFL. No games, no practices, but it was a big weekend. And Roger Goodell came out and did the right thing. And I'll get to that in a second. But here's Roger Goodell, I imagine somewhere in the basement of his house, saying, I'm now going to align with the players. Here's the NFL commissioner.
We, the National Football League, condemn racism and the systematic oppression of Black people. We, the National Football League, admit we were wrong for not listening to NFL players earlier and encourage all to speak out and peacefully protest. We, the National Football League, believe Black lives matter.
By the way, many owners did not know Roger Goodell was going to do that. He did and should have, and here's why. For the last several years, 3 or 4, since Colin Kaepernick took a knee, there's been this walking on eggshell thing with the NFL and Trump's Twitter account and players, Eric Reed and Malcolm Jenkins and other players talking about protests. And it's walking on eggshells, and the networks that broadcast games, this one included, everybody is just hoping this doesn't happen and that doesn't happen. And I just don't think it's a healthy relationship. Finally, Roger Goodell took the power away from Donald Trump's Twitter account and said, these are my partners. I'm splitting revenue with them. I love these players. I have relationships with these players. I'm not going to let anybody divide us. I'm on the players' side. I'm on their side. We have a president whose brand is division. It's over. He'll be gone in November. He will. And he can divide people on his Twitter account. But Roger Goodell said, no, time out. I don't want to walk on eggshells. It's the right thing to do for humanity. It's the right thing to do with my business partners. And frankly, it's just the right thing to do. Support the players. I don't know exactly what the NFL player-owner split is, but owners make more, but players make like over 40, 45% of the revenues, I believe. Sorry if I'm wrong. Probably should have looked that up. But if you're in a business with people and they're valuable and you like them, and this fear-based stuff that, well, if the players protest, they don't want to blow the league up. It's their industry. It's generational money. The NFL players, they don't want to blow the league up. They just want to be heard. And, you know, here's the thing. It's easy. I mean, Twitter makes a living out of this. Gotcha. You said this 6 years ago. You said this 9 years ago. You said this 9 months ago. I'm over that. If you want growth, and Roger Goodell showed growth, it's very hard to demand perfection. Derek Jeter didn't wake up hitting 300. He struck out a lot. And that's just sports. We're talking race and human beings and social justice. These are delicate topics. And it takes, not everybody learns at the same speed. Bill Maher said this. Bill Maher, HBO, you know, he's one of those crazy old liberals. He actually said during Michael Sam, when Michael Sam got drafted, the gay NFL player, and kissed his partner. And everybody freaked out. And Bill Maher said, not everybody learns at the same time. It's okay if 1 or 2 fans were a little shocked, they'd never seen it, had to take a deep breath, and then can respond. Never forget, one of my favorite presidents of all time. I've always told people my favorite presidents are Reagan and Obama. Nobody can figure out why. And for different reasons, I like their leadership abilities. But Obama's first term as president, and I think he's one of the smartest presidents we've ever had, he was opposed to gay marriage. And at the time, I remember thinking, smart guy, bad take. And then he listened, and he learned. And that's how growth happens, is that you don't hear enough angles, you don't listen well enough. I thought Roger Goodell, and he's been criticized for years as a commissioner, and I keep saying this, he's not stubborn. He's not rigid. He's always been willing to, the rules, the television business, he listens to players. Too much of this stuff that's going on in America is fear-based. I've been watching CNN. I'm old enough. You've probably been watching it 20 years. I've been watching it 30 years. We're having a revolution in this country. Other countries, I've watched CNN for 30 years on revolutions. They don't look like ours. 99% of ours are peaceful protests. I mean, I'll be honest with you, 99.9% of protests for our revolution have been peaceful. I watch CNN. It's not always like that. There's too much fear out here. You know, I was talking to my daughter about this. I mean, really, for the entire weekend with my family. It's not called only Black Lives Matter. It's Black Lives Matter. Your partners in this amazing sport of the NFL are just asking, will you listen to us? Will you hear us? We're partners. We're not looking to end the league, just improve it. And Roger Goodell, as he's done many times, he gets a lot of criticism, sat down and went, players are right. I was wrong. Just because you're over 50 doesn't mean you can't grow. I mean, Greg Popovich, I think he has a military background in his 70s. He's constantly evolving. It's okay. I don't know when this became a weakness. I don't know when we became so partisan that stubborn was smarter than evolving. I don't get it. It's not my DNA. It's just not the way I'm built. I have stronger and different opinions today on subjects from just 2 years ago. I'm talking about a couple subjects today that I see the world differently. Some people are never going to get it. They're not curious. They don't want to read. They put their feet, they burrow in, and they're not going to move. But here for Roger Goodell. The only thing I would warn is that you don't get growth without some mistakes. You got to stumble often to get to the right place. The NFL did. And I thought it was a great weekend, actually, for America with a peaceful protest. Kind of blown away by it. And it was a great weekend for the NFL. They took the power out of Trump. I want to work with my players. These are my guys. These are the guys on Sunday I'm going to battle with and I'm supporting. That's the way it should always be. That's now eliminating the power from somebody in the White House who's trying to be divisive and has everybody walking on eggshells. This morning, to me, I don't feel the eggshells. That's my interpretation of this whole weekend. I don't feel the eggshells. Let's talk about it. Let's support each other. I want to back my partners. Let me shift to this. Dabo Sweeney's probably the most popular football coach in his region or state in the country. He's made Clemson a power. He and Nick Saban right now are probably the highest paid, the most coveted football coaches in America. He's a very, very good football coach. He's built a great program. By and large, from what I know, which is very little, he keeps the same assistants year after year after year. There's not a big turnover rate, so he's probably decent to work for. He also recruits very well, and players don't abandon the program, so I imagine most players like him a lot. Most coaches like him. Again, there's not a huge turnover rate. You go, you commit, you play. People say nice stuff about him. But one of the things I've learned about life is when people have power, the more power you have for the longer time, it's much tougher to relinquish it. And nobody has more power in college sports than the popular college football coach. And Dabo Sweeney right now has more power than anybody in college football except maybe Nick Saban. So over the weekend, there was a picture taken with Dabo Sweeney wearing a shirt, "Football Matters, not Black Lives Matter." I'm not asking him that he has to wear a Black Lives Matter shirt, but I don't think this is appropriate, and here's why. Now, it should be noted, Football Matters is a slogan that has been used for years by the National Football Foundation, which he's part of. He's used that phrase before in speaking, Football Matters, and also used it 3 years ago in a speech at the South Carolina State House about the quality of football and how it changes young men. His quarterback said he's been wearing that shirt for months. Fine. I just don't think this is the week to wear it. It comes off as obstinate. Okay? I'm not asking everybody to protest. But here's a guy who reads the room. He's one of the great recruiters of all time. When you recruit, it's walking in and reading the room, reading mom, reading dad, reading the son, reading the daughter. You're reading the room. You're kind of figuring out, okay, what matters to mom, what matters to dad, what matters to the recruit. Oh, my gosh, he's got two daughters or two sisters. Recruiting's all about reading the room. Dabo's great at it. I don't think in this instance, college coaches, especially the local Southern football coach, they have so much power. I mean, we've heard a lot of these coaches in college sports talk about COVID over the last couple of months. Ugh, stop talking. Now, a chef knows food. So I don't ask a chef about the GDP of Yemen. I don't generally ask a college football coach about social justice, but a big part of coaching is mentoring young men. You're often almost a surrogate father. And what matters to those players is the lifeblood of your entire program. I don't mind him wearing the shirt. This week feels obstinate. It feels like it's a rigidity bubble. I'm used to it. I've seen it my entire life with college coaches. But I prefer Tom Herman at Texas coming on my show last week and addressing Black Lives Matter this way.
To see the pain and the struggle and the fear, the confusion on my players' faces, we've got to find a way to stop. We've got to find a way. The thing I told our players is this cannot be like it's always been. 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, a month from now, a year from now, this has to have meant something. We have to have affected change by not just our words, but our actions.
Coaching is teaching. This week, there have been a lot of teachable moments. I just don't think it's the week to wear that shirt. NFL for over a decade. I covered him in college. TJ Houshmandzadeh, who is joining us now via the Cowherd Global Satellite Network. So let me ask you, how, if you were a New Orleans Saint and you like Drew Brees, he'd thrown the ball to you a lot, he'd been a good community guy, then he comes out, says what he says, and then he apologizes. When you woke up this morning, if you were a teammate of Drew Brees, would you accept the apology? Where would you be emotionally in your relationship with Drew Brees this morning if you were a wide receiver for the Saints?
I'd obviously be disappointed. That's no question. You would think about this. When Cap nailed it was 2016, 4 years ago. Drew Brees actually has nailed himself. So you've, in essence, had 4 years to come up with an answer to a question if you were never asked. And that's the answer that you come up with. And that wasn't even the question that was asked. That's just what you wanted to say. And so that was disappointing. I feel like his apology, it was a public relation thing. He didn't understand all the hate that was coming his way. So let me throw an apology out there. We're teammates. We're going to move on. If I'm on the New Orleans Saints, we're going to go past this. I don't know Drew Brees personally. Those guys in the locker room, they know how he is. So they know his DNA. They know what he's about. And so when he made that comment, they know if the apology is real or not because they know exactly what type of dude he is. But for me, I was taken aback. I was shocked because he didn't come off as being that type of guy. But I'm a firm believer in your mouth speaks what comes from your heart.
Yeah. You know, it is interesting. I said earlier, we demand growth from people, but we can't demand perfection. And because to grow, I mean, I think I'm a better broadcaster today because I made a bunch of mistakes. Does Drew Brees' resume matter that he's been a good person? And I'm not saying it has to, but to you, do you think, listen, his history is good dude. Does that help him at all in this?
100% it helps him. And that's why you're willing to look at his apology and say, is it sincere? Because of what he has done and the impact he's had on that community. And again, his teammates know the Mike Thomases and the Kamars and the Cam Jordan. They know what type of dude he is. And so I know Drew Brees. I do not know him personally. And that's the thing where we can sit here and try to judge, but I don't know him personally. Again, his teammates, it will be interesting that they're going to have to start the season well, because if they don't, then in the back of their minds, some of their better players, they're going to have that thought. And so it sucks, but 100% they can move past this. It's how do they move past this and the steps taken along the way.
Roger Goodell is not perfect, but I always think he has good intentions in mind, even when he makes mistakes. It's hard to be a president. It's hard to be a CEO. It's hard to be a commissioner. It's a leadership position. Leadership is imperfect. I thought he had a good weekend, Did you buy into his shift on the support of players?
I did. And the reason I did is Roger, when Roger Goodell became the commissioner, I was actually on a committee. If you would recall this, we were getting in a lot of trouble down in Cincinnati. We were kind of the poster boys for it.
Yeah.
And so he gives me a call. He wants me to participate in this committee that he was forming. And I did. And we had some calls. We met together. I got to know Roger. And he's sincere. He's about the league. He's not about a team. He isn't about a player. He's about the league, the NFL. And so he's doing what he thinks is best for the NFL. And he sees the plight of the African-American person in the world. The league is made up of predominantly African-Americans, black players. And so he can't, nobody can walk in the shoes of a black player. You don't know when you're driving down the street and the sheriff gets behind you. We look in the rearview mirror tons of times. I know I do. And for other people, that's a different experience. And so for Roger to come out and say what he said, it was refreshing. But Roger is always, for the most part, I wouldn't say always, but for the most part, he's always done the right thing when it comes to issues like this, whether they're popular or not.
Well, I don't remember. When you played, TJ, were you vocal about social issues or not? You're the kind of guy that could handle it. Like Malcolm Jenkins clearly cares. He can handle it. He's good in the room with multiple people, an owner, a GM, a coach, a player. Were you vocal?
I wasn't vocal about these issues. These issues weren't a topic of conversation at all. Now, when you say, was I vocal? I mean, I was vocal about a lot of things, practice conditions, a lot of things that occurred, that you go through during, on the team. I was very vocal about it, but these social injustices, they weren't an issue when I was playing. I actually wish they were, because I don't know what I would have done, but me being the type of person that I am, I would like to think I would have been on the front line of this.
Do you think players will kneel now? I mean, do you think that'll become a thing now, or what's your takeaway on that?
If you listen to Adrian Peterson, yes, I'm not 100% certain. I don't know what kneeling is going to do, but the word is out. The word is out now about what's going on. Everybody's on board, and I'm a realist, Colin. You need cooperation in order for there to be progress. Is that cooperation going to come at the local and the state local levels to start implementing change? It's going to take some time. It's not going to be an easy road. Nobody in power wants to give power up, and that's just the reality of it. And so it will be interesting to see how this plays out, but it's long overdue. We've been discriminated against in so many different ways. I mean, people condemn Kaepernick, and he was well ahead of the curve, and he wasn't the face guy that everybody wanted him to be. Oh, why isn't he coming out saying this? That's not what he wants to do. That's not how he's going to lead this. And we wanted him, or people wanted him to lead it how they wanted him to lead it, and that's not what he wanted to do.
Do you think we're going to see change? I watched this weekend. I'm a 55-year-old white male. I was really captivated by the protests. I thought it was remarkable. I thought the last 3 or 4 days, I thought spoke well of America. But that's my view on what I watched. Do you believe there's real change coming?
It's hard. It's hard to say. Again, you brought up Malcolm Jenkins. You got guys like him that's in the league, and he's at the forefront of this. He's leading the charge. And you got former players like Anquan Bolden. If you can get, the key is you have to get the popular white players to be with you, because when they're with you, then they want to understand the problems. And again, there's so many different things that it doesn't matter how much money you have when you're being profiled. It's happened to me numerous times while I was playing, and especially now that I'm not playing. And so I believe there will be change. It's going to be gradual, and it's going to be slow. Maybe not as quick as some would like. But as long as people keep this energy and it's peaceful, change will come. It's just going to take some time.
Well, TJ, I love having you on. And TJ, by the way, has been for the last year, he's rebuilding a house, and his marriage is still strong today, which speaks speaks volumes of the quality person rebuilding a house for a year, and still he and his wife love each other. That is amazing, my friend.
Yeah, we get along pretty well, man. I can't complain. Just a long process, I will say that.
Good seeing you, TJ.
Colin, I appreciate it, man. Take care, man.
All right. Good dude. Really, really good dude. And by the way, he says something which we've talked about time and time again. And I'm not saying this for any other reason that it's a real thing. Every African-American male that I've ever asked that's been on my show, and I would say 1 out of 5 I ask off the air, they all have the same thing. It's just different with police for us. Why would they make that up? Why would they make that up? I've known TJ for years. Why would he make it up? There's no gain in it for him. In fact, he's never brought it up to me until that. Not once. Not once. All the years I've known him. We talk about family life off the air. TJ and I talk. We go deep. Not one time. Why would he mention it now?